Welcome to this Good Friday meditation. Welcome to this second day of our virtual spiritual retreat. Someone has defined the Gospels as passion narratives with long introductions. That's how they put it. And it's true that the core of the Gospels are the passion, the death, and resurrection of Jesus. They are the three of them: passion, death, resurrection, mystery that we cannot separate. Though we can distinguish it, they all go together. And it's true that all the rest of the gospel leads up, if you want, to that very important, the most important moment in the life of Jesus. That is the focal point. The essence of redemption is contained in the passion, the death, and the resurrection of Christ. Last Sunday, when we were celebrating Palm Sunday, we heard read to us the passion according to the Gospel of Matthew. And today, in the celebration of the Lord's Passion, we will listen to it again, but this time from the lips of the Apostle John. Each individual Gospel, when they narrate the Passion, they have a different flavor, I would say. There are small differences. One highlights something that the other does not. And this helps us to put the big picture together. And all of these are heavy, loaded hours of our Lord. These last hours. And so there's many things happening at a very high pace at the same time. So for today, I would like to invite you to read in prayer chapter 15 of the Gospel of Mark. It's not the entire passion narrative, but it's the core of it. And focus, I invite you, on the silence of Jesus. We know that Jesus speaks while he's on the cross. 7 different phrases, or as they are known, the 7 words of Jesus. Father, forgive them. They know not what they're doing. Today you will be with me in paradise, he says to one of the thieves. I thirst. Behold your mother. Into your hands I commend my spirit. It is finished. And my God, why have you abandoned me? Today we can pray with the silence of Jesus, not with the words of Jesus. You would notice that in this chapter 15 of Mark, Jesus speaks only twice. First, he gives a very short answer to the high priest during his trial. The second time is when he's on the cross, as he pronounces those words that we know full well. My God, why have you forsaken me? And they think that he is calling onto the prophet Elijah, because he says, Eli, Eli. Today, as I say, I invite you to pray with the silence of Jesus, that his silence might speak to your heart. Notice that he doesn't speak much during this gospel. And what is the reason for Mark to highlight the silence of Jesus? Why is Jesus silent? Wouldn't this be the perfect pulpit, the perfect opportunity? Everybody's staring at him, looking at him. They wait for something. Some of them are mocking him. Come down from the cross. Wouldn't this be just the perfect moment to speak, to preach like he did on the Mount, to give one of these beautiful sermons, homilies, teachings? We know the answer. We know that actions speak louder than words. And that is precisely why Jesus is silent. Jesus saying a lot in his silence, as a matter of fact. In verse 5 of this chapter, 15 of Mark, they are surprised that he's not in his trial, that he's saying nothing else, nothing more. He's silent. This is not the time to preach, like when he did it in the synagogue, in the fields, in the temple. It's not the time for miracles or healings. This is a time of redemption through suffering. And we know that certain kind of suffering requires silence. Have you ever been in a hospital? There's a lot of silence. Some say for people to recover because they need it. Most people don't want intruders when they suffer. They want to be left alone. There is silence and privacy as well. So we respect people who want to be by themselves, and we realize that they need that time. But there's also some sort of connection in between the suffering and silence. Suffering and silence. When we suffer, we lock the door of our room and we cry all by ourselves. We need it. Some people need it. But there's a connection between suffering and silence. We need to think, we need to ponder. What do we do with this suffering? So much more with Jesus. His silence when they mock him, ridicule him, even when Simon of Cyrene carries the cross with him, he doesn't say a word. With the soldiers, with the ones who provoke him, with the high priest, it is a silence that enables Jesus to embrace the cross, I would suggest. To embrace in obedience his death. Because he is actually not silent. He's praying. He's in connection with the Father. And we know it through these other words of Jesus that are not recorded in the Gospel of Mark. Father, forgive them. Father, into your hands. He is, in fact, praying. His words are a prayer. And not only that, the famous words, Eli, Eli, my God, why have you abandoned me? Are, some scholars suggest, really a prayer. And it's true that he's addressing the Father, and many have thought that, well, maybe he felt desperate at that time. Nothing of that sort. If I were to pray, for instance, Hail Mary, full of grace, and then go silent, what would you think that I'm doing? Certainly praying the Hail Mary. Even if I only say the first phrase, the same is happening, they say, with Jesus, while he pronounces those very words. My God, why have you forsaken me? Are the beginning words of Psalm 22 in our Bibles. And as a good Jew, Jesus knew the Psalms. They pray with the Psalms. And he knew full well this psalm that is the one that he is praying with. And I would invite you, you will find this in the handout, an invitation to pray with that psalm as well. And you will find little indications in the handout as well as how to pray with it. But I would invite you to start praying with the silence of Christ. And then to make yourself this wonderful psalm, which is not a psalm of a desperate person. Yes, it is a psalm of a persecuted person, of someone who's going through a very hard time, who finds himself surrounded, as he says, by dogs, who are about to eat him up. And it's true that it's a song that implies lamentation, but it's also true that it's a song that it inspires a lot of faith and is filled with supplication. And it ends up in a higher tone because it ends up in thanksgiving and in praise. And that's what we ought to do today as well. So I'd invite you to pray today, read this wonderful gospel, and be assured of the silence of Christ, that you are also to enter into this great silence, the silence of Jesus in the cross. Not to say nothing, not to go without words, but so that your spirit and mine could be raised up, and that instead of talking to others, we would be talking to our Father and go deeper in that relationship. May the Lord grant you a very good Friday.